Dr. Miller here with the Journal Club, weightlifting Journal Club today. Dr. Miller, PhD. Don't forget, I always double up on my credentials, the AIDS and the ego boost. All right, because I don't have an MD, so I can't really save anybody's life directly. I can do so through the barbell indirectly, the activity and so forth. But I need ego boost. If I was on Twitter, I would call myself Dr. Miller, PhD, because then I get a blue check, right? Isn't that how you get blue checks? And then you can yell at people. Okay. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. Smack the bell, too, because that enhances things, I guess. Remember, I'm trying to get to that Lambo lifestyle, so I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subs. And, well, let's be honest. Before I get to the Lambo lifestyle, I need to fix the wall behind me. All right, so I need to get up to 1,000 subs. That way I can start monetizing my videos, and then I can paint the wall, right? I can take the 15 cents that I get from videos and put it towards my wall repair. All right, what do we got here today in our Journal Club? Okay, again, a weightlifting Journal Club. The sport of weightlifting. Okay, not just weight training, not right. If you haven't seen my definitions video, go see that. Like all these different words we throw around: weightlifting, weight training, powerlifting. Resistance training, strength training. They all have different meanings, believe it or not. But when we're talking about weightlifting, we're talking about the sport of weightlifting. Some kind of like Oli lifting, O lifting, Olympic lifting, and probably won't be in the Olympics after 2024 the way things are going. So it might just be weightlifting finally. One word. This is the snatch and clean and jerk. Okay, some of you may be involved with these activities, some may not. You may be involved with them as a weightlifter, maybe doing CrossFit, whatever it may be. But the focus of this particular research study was the clean, just the clean. So from floor to rack position, okay, full clean. And what was of interest in this study, and why I picked it up, is in competition many times, and I'm going to use competition as a framework, but you can do this anytime, is that before you take an attempt, let's say in weightlifting you get 3 attempts, that's what you get, okay? The first clean or a snatch, you might take a heavy pull before you go out there. So they take that first attempt. Let's say you're going to open with 100 kilo clean and jerk. You might pull 105, 110 kilos in the back being like the warm-up area. So you do that, rest 3 minutes, and you go take your first attempt. And so the idea is that there's either a mental part of that, which I think is a big part of it, but it's also post-activation potentiation. It's back to that, I've noticed in the research literature. It was post-activation performance enhancement, right? No, it was post-activity performance enhancement. So in other words, you warm up, whatever. Okay, because there's some arguing over whether an actual neurological phenomenon occurs as we understand it by doing something heavy, something light. So if you've seen my video on complex training, right? Complex is just a combination of exercises. Like you do something heavy, like this is where PAP was kind of started with, Yuri Verkhoshansky back in the 60s, is you do something heavy, like a heavy back squat, and then you do some vertical jumps after optimally 4 minutes, but nobody waits that long, at least 2 minutes before you do that, and it enhances your performance, and it does, okay? And so this is the same idea, though, here, whether it's PAP or PAP-A or whatever it is, okay? And these authors call it PAP here, is that you do something heavy, and then there's a neurological or mental boost, right? Psychological. That's probably a more cool term to say. Psychological boost, or both. And then you go out there and that weight feels lighter. I mean, this is also very helpful. I've been in weightlifting tournaments where a lot of lifters are the same opening number. Let's say you have 8 people opening at 100. Well, if your lifter's number 3, it's going to take a long time before that lifter lifts again, even if they make their lift, because you have some people miss lifts, and then people are going to go up, and right, and you play games and so on, play games with the back of, how much weight, blah, blah, blah. And so in other words, there's a time gap before you take the next attempt. So having a pull can be helpful to stay fresh without wearing somebody out. Throw a bar over your head again. And so this is also, and this could be in training as well. Like you're going to take some maximal temps, maybe do a heavy pull before you take some maximal temps. All right, I'm trying to frame why this is interesting. Okay. This particular study was in, let me just read the study title. I haven't even started there yet. Preconditioning Strategies Before Maximal Clean Performance in Female Weightlifters by Kelekian. I'm not trying to be funny there. I'm sure I'm just butchered this person's name. Georgia Cassandra. This is out of a Greek laboratory, sports performance laboratory. So all Greek authors by the looks of it here. Forgive me if I butchered that. I'm sure I did. Out of the Journal of Strength Conditioning Research, published in 2022. All right, so what was the study? And there's a lot of, I'm going to use the word problems here, and that sounds harsh, because research is hard. So anytime I research literature, it's not out of a holy thou, I'm so awesome, because I'm not a prolific researcher myself. I do, I'll say I mess around with it. Publish some research, continue to do so, but Research is very difficult. It's time consuming, and there's always problems with it, meaning your methodology. And then you actually got to, if you're studying people, then you get all kinds of problems because then they don't show up, and then I was out boozing last night. Oh, okay, good. Well, that's just screwed up my study, thanks. Or, the strength coach decided to kill us before we came in, before your second part of your study today. Oh, great, because now you just ruined my whole study. So this is not an easy thing. Okay, so I'm going to point out some deficiencies in the study. It's not a critique. It's just a critique in the sense of just a critique. It's a critique to say, hey, when you're reading research, and if you've watched my videos, I try to point this out all the time, is, this isn't gospel. Like, this isn't this, like, this term scientism has taken over everything. Like, this is it. This is the goal. If you've ever done, this is why it's important to do some research, perhaps before you do research, before you read research, is that you realize how many holes are in it. Like, it's not airtight. And then when you read the studies themselves, you're like, that was a methodological error. And that's okay, as long as you acknowledge it. Okay? So, this is why we have to culminate evidence. Like, the nutritional literature is awful at this, right? You take one study and you run with it. All right, back to this. What we got here? 8 young, well-trained female Olympic weightlifters, age 23, I'm going to round up, plus or minus about 8 years, so pretty good spread, 17 to 31 years old. That's a pretty big spread in age. Let's figure out if these individuals are well-trained. Okay, so the average body mass was 63.3 plus or minus 5.3. Now, it says here, and I'm going to just stop there for a second, hold that for a second, just 63.3 was the average body mass. Okay, these athletes participated in national and international weightlifting competitions, although all of them were classified in the top 5 athletes of bodyweight category during the last national championship. National championship where? In Greece. Do you know anything about Greek weightlifting? Probably not a lot if you're into weightlifting, because it's not considered a real powerhouse. Like, we don't Pyrrhus Demas anymore. Okay, so let's go back now and look at the actual numbers here. So this is again, to be fair, the study said well-trained. They didn't say elite athletes, just well-trained, because these athletes have been training for over 6 years. So I would say, yeah, that's trained. Okay, average body mass 62.3. The average snatch was 58, and clean and jerk was 74, plus or minus 15. Okay, it's a pretty good spread there. Now, based on just the means, would I say these are elite athletes? No, not even close. Not even close. In the United States system, and granted, the United States is a much bigger country, these numbers are okay. Like, they're not great at all. Like, there's, the clean and jerk, it needs to be at least over 100. So just keep that in mind. Does that mean this is not well trained? No. Okay. Do you call 31-year-old young? I don't know. Do you? I mean, these are the things that you have to kind of work through. So keep that in the back of your mind as I go through the study. Is well-trained, maybe yes, but not elite. So maybe this is the people you're working with if you're a coach, or maybe this is you. Okay? So it applies to you directly. Are you a man? Well, this won't apply to you as much, potentially. Good, but I don't know. Are you an elite male weightlifter? I don't know. Okay, you get the idea. All right, so what was the setup here? 4 visits. The first visit was a 1RM. So this is a 4-week study. Once a week, the individuals came in, the athletes. The first week was a maximal, 3 maximal attempts with 2-minute rests in between, just like a weightlifting competition, to get 3 attempts, assume they follow themselves, which doesn't always work out, but say that happened. The second and third visits, and I couldn't figure out if they were randomized. I'm assuming so. Okay, maybe I missed it. I didn't see it though. But the second and third were the kind of the hinge, of course, in the study. So the warm-up for all 3 of these days, the heavy day, or the max out day, and then either condition, was such. This is what they did. They warmed up with 2 sets of 4 repetitions at 50% of clean, 2 sets of 2 repetitions, 65%, 1RM the clean, 1 set of 2 repetitions of 75%, 1 set of 1 repetitions of 85%, and 1 set of 1 with 95%. So on the max out day, they rested 3 minutes, and then they did a max attempt every 2 minutes for 3 attempts. Okay. On the other days, second day and third day, this is when they introduced the intervention here. And so keep in mind the individuals worked up to 95% of 1RM. The next attempt then was either 85% pull only or 120% pull only. Okay. And again, I'm assuming they randomized them, so let's assume they did. If they didn't, that could be problematic. But it's a week apart, so maybe not. I don't know. And that's going to be one of my critiques as well. So they called, the fast one 85% and kind of the maximal one at 120, right? So after the 95%, let's take one of the days of 1 RM, they did clean. They did 85% pull, rested 3 minutes, and then did 2 more attempts. Or on the other day, they did 95% of 1 RM, 120% pull, that's quite a jump, and then did their clean attempts. All right? So, basically you go up and down with the 85, or you go up and then take a nonlinear increase in load up to 120. And did that influence the maximal clean attempt? Well, if the results then, by the way, I know there was 4 days, and I'll talk about the 4th day. It's, to me, a little bit inconsequential, but that's fine. This could have been like a master's thesis or something, kind of by the looks of it, but it's still interesting for me to talk about. How's that? So, was there any enhancement from the 85% pull? Keep in mind that would be roughly about 6 minutes rest with 1 pull in between. So 6 minute rest, 1 pull in between, 85% or 120. To the actual lift. The clean performance increased significantly after precondition, so the maximal lifts without any sort of pull. 85% 1RM saw roughly a 4%, 3.7% 6% increase, and the 120% group saw a 4.7% increase, so plus or minus around 3.5 for both of them. Okay, so both pulls enhanced performance. Okay, whether it was in the 85 was slightly better percentage-wise, both of them were significant. They were not significantly different from one another, but in both of the pulls resulted in a better outcome in terms of lifting. The research also did RPE 10 minutes after the lifting, and not surprising, the RPE for the 120 was 12.6, and the 85% was 10.7. So in other words, heavier loads feel worse. It's a shocker, right? But that's cool that they did this. And the whole idea then, kind of the takeaway was, if you did an 85% pull in this 6 minute rest block right in the middle of it, it'll have the same kind of effect as a 120% pull would in that same block. So, I've used heavy pulls in the past, and I've also done drop sets. So like they have that long period, like I mentioned before, that you might not lift for 15 minutes. Go back and hit an 85%, right? 1 rep, 85% of clean and jerk, okay? And it's like, well, that's not going to keep me in contact with the load on the bar. Yeah, but it can enhance performance and keep you warm, right? So I think that this study, this is why this is interesting. I've done both of these strategies, and they both end up in the same place roughly. I have athletes, though, that have told me in the past that they didn't want to do a heavy pull because it makes them feel tired. Sorry for the noise in the background. It makes them feel tired, right? And that would obviously support here. So doing an 85%, I have athletes that I don't want to do a heavy pull before I go out because I feel tired when I get out there. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So again, both of these conditions resulted in significant increase in clean performance of roughly about 5%. But the 85% felt better. So fatigue was less as well. And that's what the authors concluded basically, is 85% might be a better strategy just because you don't feel as tired. Now the 4th day, by the way, the research team took had them come in, do vertical jump and DEXA and some isometric rate of force development markers. Okay. It's just like almost like it was thrown in there. I get the idea of kind of trying to profile these athletes and so forth, but I don't know, that was just in this study for some reason. Again, I get the attempted connected here, but I'm not too concerned with that. I'm not even going to talk about those numbers, to be honest with you. Now, the other part of this just to consider, and I'll wrap this up, is if this is a 4-week study and you're doing 1RM testing, has the 1RM changed from week to week? It's possible, right? So if you do that heavy max session, what if the individuals are coming off of really, they said, let's see, how long had been, they're not athletes, maybe I didn't say that. I was thinking that they did. That said how long they had before they last competed, but it didn't. So if you have these athletes that came out off a competition and they were exhausted and did, 1RM or maybe a heavy or a high volume training cycle and did their 1RM and then they did these other 2 conditions, it could have been just that they're in a periodized cycle that they saw benefit just from the cycle itself and had nothing to do with the 2 different pulls. So just keep that in mind as well. Training studies are difficult. 4-week study is difficult. If you're going to have somebody max out, you're going to have, what are you going to have them do? Them max out twice a week? No, of course not. I mean, right. So this is going to be a difficult study to set up no matter what, but just keep in mind that 1RM testing, it's going to float, right? It being the load, the 1RM is actually going to float from week to week. This is why we've had a lot of let's say it's a birth of autoregulation. Autoregulation has been around a long time, but just influx, right? And this uptick in autoregulation like RPE, right? RIR, all the different devices now, velocity-based training, all this stuff. So just keep that in mind as well. Interesting study nonetheless. Maybe this is something you want to incorporate if you're a weightlifter. You don't have to go heavy to see a benefit in performance by incorporating a pull. Give it a try maybe in a competition if you're a weightlifter or if you're a coach, employ it. Or don't be afraid to work in at 85% because it seems to be enhancing and not fatiguing to the athlete. That's something I was always concerned with. More reps, more fatigue, but an 85% might be better than 120. That makes sense. All right, I'll see you in the next video.